Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about SparkyLinux. A new version has dropped. It's been a few years since I've looked at it, and things have really come a long way, including some new GUI tools that make things a little bit easier to manage, a built-in package manager, and a few things like that. Now, before we get on into this, SparkyLinux is not designed for the beginning user, although they could probably use it without a ton of help. However, it is really designed for people who already have a little bit of Linux experience. They do have a few different options in the new builds, and these come from some very specific builds for development, for media management, for recovery, or a pretty much blank command line interface that will allow you to customize the exact system that you happen to want. So with that, let's have a look over at their website and see what the About page has to say. This is at sparkylinux.org, and we're on the About page. So basically, it's created from Debian. This latest version is Bullseye, and it has a rolling distribution based on the Bullseye. The rolling version of Debian, which is used for building. Is that SID? I think it is. I don't use that one very much. I can't remember the exact name of it. I think it's SID, which is the next step staging one. It's kind of a rolling type Debian. Then they do have the stable one, which is based on Bullseye, which is the current release of Debian. And then you have a few options for desktop environments. The built-in ones, we have the Game Over, which is for gamers based on XFCE, and this one will have some extra packages and focus more towards and applications more geared towards gamers. The one I looked at is Multimedia for audio, video, and HTML pages, which is XFCE. That says XFCE. That might be the LXDE, which is the version that I have downloaded. Or maybe I just grabbed a generic one. I can't remember. I did not grab the XFCE one just because I wanted to experiment with just with different desktop environments from time to time. And I use XFCE all the time. And so this will have some packages for audio, for video, creating pages. It has things like Clementine and some developer tools and things like that. Then we have an open box version for fixing broken OSs. And then there is the minimal CLI with no X server, which will allow you to build your system the way you would like. Now, whichever one of these you are using, you can install 20 different desktop environments and window managers, giving you a lot of choice inside of the system. And that is very easy to install those from the tools that we have built in. So looking at the flavor, basically you grab the one that you need, or if you want to build it up, which is definitely more advanced, then you go ahead and do that. And then you can just go ahead and install it, and it's super lightweight. The main feature is Debian based. It's either the stable or the semi-rolling release. This will work on pretty much any old computer you have laying around. There's not a lot of bells and whistles to slow anything down in the background. There are the special editions. There is the CLI version. It does fix a lot of wireless and mobile networking cards. It does have a lot of software that is difficult to get running on Debian with the click of a button install. So they've done a lot in the repos for SparkyLinux to really bring a lot more to Debian. Now, you're going to trade off the pure FOSS philosophy. There are easy one-click installs for Google Chrome and a few other more proprietary type applications. But for those that do not care and want to use those, you have the options inside of there. So you can head on over to the download page. You just start with, do you want to grab the stable or the rolling? And then here is where we have the here's the LXQT, XFC, and the KDE versions. I think this is what I did. I don't think I got one of the specialized ones. I think I just grabbed the latest of the general release, and you have LXQT, XFCE, and KDE as your basic desktop environments. I choose LXQT because I have not used it in quite a while. And you can see that we have an ARM image as well. So this might be one, I don't know, I might play around, if I'm sick of Manjaro, I might play around with SparkyLinux on my Raspberry Pi, see how that works. That might be a fun experiment to do. And so with that, we have a few other options. So let's go ahead and talk about the basic ideas and the things that I perceived looking at it. First, the installation process. It uses the Calamaris installer, and there was nothing special about the installation. All the basic options are in there that you would expect. There's really no extra options. And it installed flawlessly over the existing VM. Of course, since it's based on Debian, it does not have the guest additions. It cannot seem to detect my default monitor resolution. It has like every resolution in there that's common except mine. So I'm just going to go ahead and scale to a smaller version and then, upscale it up. When you boot into the system, you can see there's enough software to make it feel like a complete operating system, but not so much that it feels like it's bloated or difficult to work with. There's not an excessive amount of things, but we do find inside of here the basic system settings. Is it called YAD, I think? And inside of here, you have options for some basic settings. We have options for the installation of the new software and things like that. So diving into that, you just pick your individual categories. You can see there's just a lot of different categories. You narrow in, and we have a lot of software. It's not some of the basics we find. Even in Ubuntu doesn't have this much good and available software, at least not without installing it through like snaps and things like that. But they've actually done a really good job to put a lot of things in here. Looking at the web browser lists, there's a lot of different web browsers. You have Waterfox, which I would not recommend using. I consider it compromised at this point in time. You have Google Chrome, also wouldn't recommend using. But for those that need those applications, they're there. They also have your Firefox. And in the release notes, you actually have, since this is Debian, it's Firefox ESRs installed. You can use the regular Firefoxes. And there's a few other versions and options that you have out there as well. So whatever browsers you want to use, whatever software you want to use, this is just a really good application. And this GUI tool, I think, is new from the last time I've looked at this. I'm not sure how long ago they've added this, but it does a really good job. Now, other options, they do detect any updates, and I don't know, is this thing becoming like Arch? I had like 2 different updates in one day. I installed some updates, and then a couple hours later, I boot it back up. It still wants to install things. Now, there is a VPN built into the system, and the problem is I have not gotten that to work. Every time I try and turn it on, it just kills the internet, and then it just sits there and lags and never actually connects. Maybe that's an issue with the VirtualBox. Maybe that's an issue that I'm using cellular internet. Maybe the thing just doesn't work, or there's a misconfiguration file. I didn't spend any time in depth. But if you can get that to work, it's a free implemented VPN. You can choose your region, and they allege to not be collecting any logs or anything like that. And it is a free and open source application. I don't know if that means it's good or bad. It's not one that I have seen out there before. But with that being said, it is there inside of it if you want to play around with it, see what you think about it. I could not get it to work on my personal setup, but who knows, maybe you'll have a little bit more luck. So there's my brief take on SparkyLinux. It looks really good, and being that they have some ARM images, I'm going to see if I'm going to do a little bit of poking around, see if they have specific for Raspberry Pis, and I might go ahead and see about installing this on a Pi and see if I can move my workflow over to something else other than Manjaro's, what I'm currently on. I'm particularly interested in a Debian type build as long as it works, because I want to have the ability to not have things rolling so much. Manjaro has had thrown a few little monkey wrenches in my production build that I'd like to kind of avoid, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this one here, and let me know your thoughts on SparkyLinux in the comments down below, and have a look over at SparkyLinux.org for all of the download links and other information about the distribution. Any other thoughts about it? Let me know those in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.